welcome back to Light the Fuse, the only and greatest Mission Impossible podcast on the internet. I am Drew Taylor, once again joined by Charles Hood.
Hello.
And today we are talking about Mission Impossible 3.
And that was our first time hearing the new Light the Fuse music theme.
Oh my lord, that was really great, Kevin.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, Paramount, I want to put this out there. Go ahead, if you want to, just sue the hell out of Kevin. He's ready.
Do what you can.
It is legally different enough from Mission Impossible that he's in the clear. So bring it on. Kevin's ready. Right, Kevin?
Thank you.
Should we jump right into Mission Impossible 3?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. There's a unique cold open in this movie.
Yes.
Along the lines of probably like Alias, the TV shows.
Many episodes of Alias, yeah. Yeah.
This one, Mission Impossible 3, opens with a scene that takes place later in the movie, which is the only time that happens in the series, I believe.
Yeah.
So what are your feelings on it? How do you feel? I think it's a really intense opening. It really grips you, grabs you. You know, Philip Seymour Hoffman's obviously amazing.
Yeah. I don't... Well... Coming off of so many episodes of Alias, I was like, oh, this is just another episode of Alias. So that it felt more familiar when it first came out. But now I think it's a pretty nice way to open it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's bold.
It's bold, yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe if you're a big Alias fan, you wouldn't think of it as bold, but...
Right. Yeah. Well, it's still bold in terms of sort of
for the series,
conventional.
It's different.
Yeah. But I love that like kind of burst of light that hits him at the very end of that scene where he's screaming no. And
is that what goes into the fuse?
Yeah, when it goes into the... And it's like this...
Cruise is really great in that scene, too. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Hoffman is amazing, but Cruise really holds his own, too.
Yeah. And it's fun to think of the rest of the movie as just catching up to that point.
Right.
And then it goes into this really... The scene that I'm not really crazy about.
But well, let's go to the title sequence.
Oh, the title sequence?
So it goes pretty right into the title sequence from that, which the fuse is there, and the Michael Giacchino does the music for this one. Yeah. He does a lot of the Pixar movies nowadays, and the last two Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah. The theme, because I remember when I saw it in theaters, I was a little disappointed. I think the theme itself, he actually does a pretty good job with.
It's an interesting take on the theme.
Yeah. But what bums me out about it is the title sequence is so short.
Yeah, there's no clues as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, there are no clips from later in the movie.
Maybe that opening kind of serves that purpose.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, that's a good...
So...
Yeah. But I still miss it. I missed all the quick cut clips from later in the movie, and this really truncated title sequence it really bummed me out, because then it goes right into this scene that you were just mentioning.
Right. What is that song that they're playing? It's not a Bob Marley song, but it's some kind of like Jamaican.
I think it's Jimmy
song.
Cliff. I think.
Yeah.
And it's it just goes right into this engagement party. Is that what it is? Yeah. For Ethan Hunt, which I just have no interest in. For me personally, the Mission Impossible movies, I don't care about their personal lives. Yeah. Which was the whole thing that Bruce Geller always said about the old show. He had a credo for the writers that they just can't go into their backstories and talk about where the characters came from or whatever, and get into who they're married to or anything like that. And this movie really heavily gets into that. And there are some really great things in this movie, and there's some things that bother me, and that's one of the things.
Well, I think when JJ took over, and we'll talk about the other iterations of this movie on a later episode, but when he took over, he said, we've seen enough of Ethan Hunt the spy. I wanted to see Ethan Hunt the man. And there are some great things in that opening sequence. I think that both actors are great. We also see Aaron Paul as the brother, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he looks so young.
Yeah, but it introduces a very key thing for the rest of the franchise going forward, which is Ethan Hunt's amazing lip reading ability.
Yes, yeah, they established the lip reading, which is one of the coolest things in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
The lip reading scenes where they subtitle the lip reading so that he can communicate with Billy Crudup later. I mean, that stuff, I think that's some of the coolest stuff in the whole series.
Yeah, it's great.
And we should talk about the music coming off the title sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, the music, Giacchino, I like the theme. And I think he does some cool things. There are a couple of things I made note of, like at the end of this engagement party. There's a little part where he gets a phone call, and it's Billy Crudup talking in code. And Giacchino does this piece of music that kind of has this little, like, what's that kind of drum, Kevin, where you, like, hit your fingers on the thing? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, there's several. There's bongos, djembes.
Yeah, I think it's like a littler. I don't think it's a bongo. I think it's a smaller one. Anyway.
It's a mini bongo.
Technical term. It's like a little cool, like little very Mission Impossible sounding thing.
I love that thing.
When he gets it clues you in to know that, this is a code.
There's a great cue too when Maggie Q pulls up in the Lamborghini and during the Vatican sequence that like It's like a very brassy.
I think we both feel that Giacchino really ups his game for the next movie, for Ghost Protocol, which we'll talk about when we get to that one.
Yeah.
But it seems like JJ brought him on for this because Giacchino's been JJ Abrams' guy forever.
Yeah.
There's also the song, though, at the end.
Yeah.
The Kanye song.
Kanye and...
which is a pretty big upgrade, I think. The music in general is an upgrade in this movie from the second one, I think.
And we were talking about that Kanye and John Bryan did a version of the theme.
Yeah, I love that.
That's in
it's
the
like
credits
a secret
too,
thing
right?
at the end of the credits, and I was like, who did this?
Yeah.
And it says it's the Mission Impossible theme produced by Kanye West and John Bryan. John Bryan, who did the early Paul Thomas Anderson movies.
And produced the early Kanye albums.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and they did this version of the Mission Impossible theme, which is a really cool kind of similar to the one that the guys from U2 did.
Yeah.
And I really want to track down that version.
I know. I was
it.
scouring Reddit for it. So maybe someone can hear this and send it to us.
That would be great.
We can talk about how he gets the mission, because that we always talk about that, and it's keeping in the kind of continuity of the movie. He goes to a 7-Eleven. And Crudup's there, and he's trying to lure Ethan back because Ethan is no longer a spy, but he is a trainer at Spy Academy.
Yeah, Ethan Hunt, I guess, is sort of retired from field work at this point, interestingly.
Yeah.
And now Crudup talks to him in this convenience store and sort of flicks a disposable camera to indicate to him that he should buy that, and that's where the mission will be.
My question, and I wrote this down, does he have to buy that camera? Did he have to pay $750 to get the camera?
I feel like he can write that off at least.
Yeah, that's true.
But I would hope he could expense it.
Yeah. Maybe he used his corporate card and it was just a wash. But I think that's one of the cooler...
You would think he has some kind of IMF specialty credit card that like takes care of these things.
Yeah.
Like, I got to buy these sunglasses that are going to have the mission in it.
Right.
Right. The sunglasses are more expensive
than
he
was wearing
camera.
Those sunglasses before he even got the incoming...
In the second movie?
Oh, no, he didn't. That pod
They like
down.
dropped they dropped down a pod with sunglasses in it. So I guess he didn't have to buy those.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe in other circumstances he might have to buy them.
What if he got emotionally attached to the sunglasses and then he blew up?
I guess I don't know. He probably was like, I'm not going to listen to this mission, guys. I really like these sunglasses. Should we? Well, we talked about hair a little bit more. Should we talk about Cruise's hair?
I mean, I think he looks great in this one.
He does look good.
I think it actually might be shorter than the first one.
Really? I was gonna say it's pretty short, but not as short as one.
Well,
you think it's just styled differently?
Yeah, because we talked about when he takes the mask off, and there's some like kind of spikier poofs in the first one. But yeah, they're probably pretty similar.
I still prefer his hair in one.
Me too.
I would rank it so far where we are right now.
Yeah.
Hair would be first one, third one, second one.
Yeah.
Ranking Cruise's hair.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be some wild cards coming up because I'm a big fan of the fourth one.
Yeah.
We can talk. Well, we can talk about motors. We've been talking motorcycles, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So he pulls up to the mission.
Yeah. He gets one motorcycle scene, sort of reminiscent of Top Gun.
Yes,
it felt like.
Very.
So they're keeping up the thread of Ethan Hunt's love of motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's really it in this one.
Yeah. We can talk about the team.
The team. We've got Luther back.
Luther's back. Full on.
So, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that he's continued through the series.
Yeah.
And then we also have Maggie Q.
Right.
And Jonathan Rhys Meyers, how you pronounce it. In his normal accent.
I guess.
It's very thick.
It's very thick. Yeah. He's the character that I was not that invested in. I was sort of unsure of what his role was. He's kind of a pilot.
He's a helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's Maggie Q?
Well, I was asking myself what happened to the Australian guy from the last one.
I feel like they're all the IMF members are kind of jacks of all trades,
right,
and Janes of all trades. They, can do anything.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just sort of all, I don't know, put into different scenarios, and they gotta step up.
Yeah.
So I don't, but like I said before about the personal lives, I'm not really a big fan of. They start to go. There's one scene between Maggie Q and Jonathan Rhys Meyers where they start talking about her cat.
Yeah.
Not one of my favorite scenes in the series.
No.
Thankfully, they get interrupted, I think, by Tom Cruise jumping out of a building. He's like, "Tell me the prayer about your cat." Right? Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
And then Tom Cruise is like, "Shut up! I'm jumping out of a building. Help!"
That there is sort of this interesting idea throughout the whole movie that just as they're sort of trying to connect, some crazy thing happens and the plot propels forward, and
right.
And I think that's sort of interesting. I really like actually that moment rewatching this where he's awake trying to think about how to rationalize going on this mission to his wife or his fiance.
Yes.
I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I love that it's the scene where he tells her, right, that he's going to Houston for a conference.
Yes.
I want to transition into cinematography because that scene is a oneer and it's beautiful. And the camera comes up above and down into them for a 2-shot, and like it's a really, really great shot. And in this one, it's Dan Mindel, who I know you're a big fan.
I love Dan Mindel,
big fan of. And he's, interestingly, another Tony Scott guy.
Yes.
Because his first movie was Enemy of the State.
Well, who shot the last one? Oliver Wood?
No, the last one was Jeffrey Kimball.
Oh, okay.
Who has been who was with Tony Scott for a while. And so, I didn't know. I think, had he worked with J.J. Abrams before, or was this a Tom Cruise thing bringing in because of his connections with Tony Scott?
I don't know. Did he shoot Days of Heaven?
I don't know.
Or Days of Thunder?
No. Well, he did. His first movie was Enemy of the State.
Oh, wow.
And then he did
Domino.
He did Spy Game and Domino.
Yeah.
And he also shot Shanghai Noon, which I think is one of Jackie Chan's best American movies.
Right.
It's shot really well. And then he's done all of JJ's movies since this.
Yes.
So I kind of wonder if this was the first time they worked together.
I guess so, unless he shot some pilot or something.
Right. Yeah, and it's got a lot. It feels very Tony Scott.
Yeah.
It's a lot of long lens close-ups.
And that kind
of
which
I think sometimes is not the best for some situations. Like they're really far away, long lens.
Yeah.
And you think of some of those really striking close-ups in the first movie that De Palma did, where they're wide angle right in the face. This is the exact opposite. We're really far away, long lens when we're having like intimate conversations, and it's a hard style to pull off.
Yeah.
That Tony Scott really mastered.
It's that, or it's so close that the actor's head does not even clears the frame. It's so close, which I think actually makes this movie play better on TV, watching it at home.
Right.
But there are, it's
JJ's first movie.
It's
right?
It's his first movie.
He's coming off of TV.
Yes.
And I think that is part of his transition.
Yeah, and there were, I kind of gave it flack in the past for having too many close-ups, but it is actually a pretty varied looking movie. I think that there are a lot of like dynamic things about the cinematography, and
that scene that you pointed out was really one that struck me as well, when he's in bed thinking of how he's going to lie to her.
Yeah.
And then he lies to her, and then they go back to bed, and it's all in this one shot that is like a nice move over them and down, and it's really, really great. It goes from a wide to a 2-shot to a single. Like it's really nice.
And there's that great right after that sequence is the this big sequence in a sort of warehouse. I forget. Do you know where it is? The opening scene.
I'm not sure where that is. I don't. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I do know. It's in Berlin, Germany.
Oh, okay.
Because the title card.
Uh-huh.
We've been wanting to talk about the title cards in the series. So in the first movie, it was a bold white sans serif only city title card.
Right.
So he would say Prague, and he would say London.
Mm-hmm.
This one, they do all caps Berlin, title case Germany. Again, it's a white, bold sans serif. This first font, this first title card is really nice, I thought, because it's in the puddle with the reflection of the smokestacks, and then Tom Cruise runs through the puddle.
Uh-huh.
It's a really great shot and great use of the title card.
Do you like
there.
that sequence?
I don't love it. I feel like the geography is not great in that shootout. They're just sort of shooting at things off camera.
Yeah.
Which maybe is part of the PG-13, but I also just feel like I wasn't even sure who it's just sort of shots of Tom Cruise and Kerry Russell shooting at things off camera.
Right.
Without ever knowing where they are in relation to. It was not my favorite. There's a sequence in this movie that we'll talk about later that I adore, and this one I don't.
There are two great
really like.
things.
It's also just not Mission Impossible to me because it's a lot of guns.
Yeah.
And to me, guns.
But it's a lot of
exciting.
Teamwork though too.
Yeah.
You've got Maggie Q going in, and Luther has those kind of drone.
Yeah, that part.
But there are there's two cool shots. There's that shot where he tosses Kerry Russell the gun, and it kind of like under cranks for a minute before she catches it
and turns
And then there's one of my favorite one of my favorite moments of the whole series is when she says, "How many bullets do you have left?" And he checks the gun and he goes, "Enough." And it's just this, it pushes in on him, sort of like psyching himself up to do it.
Right.
And then he shoots the gun and he says, "Now I'm out."
Right. So let's talk about director trademarks.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams.
We've got the cold open.
So he did the cold open like this. He does.
Yeah.
There's got the lens flares.
Yeah.
Which he's always done lens flares.
I wonder if that's more Mindel than him.
Oh, maybe. I mean, me personally, John McTiernan is one of my favorite directors, and I've always felt that J.J. has sort of been influenced by some of McTiernan's, the look of some of his movies like Die Hard and Hunt for October. I see those lens flares, and he does them, and they seem like they're reminiscent of some of those early McTiernan classics.
Yeah.
Any other director trademarks that you can think of?
I'm trying to think.
I think the real thing is that this is very much an Alias.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he's obviously
almost
obsessed with sort of double lives,
Right.
and this talks about that in the boldest way possible.
Yeah. It's the story is kind of, we've talked about this in the past. On rewatching it, I felt less this way, but it is sort of reminiscent of True Lies.
Yeah. I felt, I didn't feel that as much this time either.
I really don't like the whole plot of him getting married, and that whole scene of them in the hospital getting married just goes on forever.
Yeah.
And it's just,
It's
again, I
cute,
just don't want
but
to
it
get
just-
into Ethan Hunt's personal life.
It takes away from the stakes, especially if you know that seemingly his wife will be shot in the head. We need to get there as quickly as we can to figure out what
Right.
that is. But I do love little things like I love that his cover is that he works for the Department of Transportation.
Oh, yeah, that
and
is
then
great.
you see that the
see the-
building is right next or
It's
underneath.
on top, the building's on top of the
Of
IMF, right?
Yeah.
Because doesn't he go up into the ceiling and do
Right.
it? And so there is the fake,
Yeah.
or it's a real Department of Transportation that is a cover for them.
Yeah.
So they can go. I assume he goes into work every day,
Right.
and then goes down into the basement, and they go. Into
I think
some
that's
sublevels.
amazing.
That's really
and I love
cool.
him talking about it at the party where he's talking about traffic.
Yeah,
it's like
and they're all bored of it.
yeah, it's like it's so cool.
Yeah.
Carrie Russell, obviously, JJ created
Right.
Felicity.
Yeah.
So having her as
that's-
a trademark.
That's a little JJ.
Yeah, JJism.
Speaking of the Department of Transportation
Yeah.
and IMF and how it runs, I do want to talk about, as we do, Ethan Hunt's boss. In this
Yes.
one, he's got two bosses. I would say technically Billy Crudup
Yes.
and Lawrence Fishburne play
Yeah.
his boss. So Crudup is operations manager Musgrave. Fishburne is director Brassel. However, there's one scene where Fishburne is on the cell phone talking to his own. He has a boss too.
Right.
And he says something like, "Don't worry, it's going to be taken care of," or whatever. So it's like, I guess he's talking to, I don't know, the head of CIA or head of
Right.
IMF. So I have an interesting theory. So Fishburne's director Brassel, Crudup operations manager Musgrave. Anthony Hopkins in the second movie was Mission Commander Swanbeck. So these are all totally different titles.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if maybe Ethan Hunt just has to answer to a lot of middle management bosses.
Yeah.
'Cause
you think
maybe-
you think they're still at the
Yeah,
IMF?
like maybe Kittredge is still around. They never said what
what
he
is
was.
his title?
I don't
Oh, you don't
remember,
know.
so
Okay.
I will have to watch again to
Okay.
see if they ever say his title. But I kind of feel like maybe he just has a lot of bosses, and
Yeah.
maybe this is why the IMF operates so poorly.
Yeah.
Because it's just all
A
middle
lot of
management.
micromanaging going
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
I mean, he's just got, a lot of people to answer to.
a lot of oversight. Well, not really great oversight though. If his boss is colluding with
Right.
a terrorist or an arms dealer, I don't really know what he was.
Yeah, it was another. They sort of explain at the end what he's all about.
Yeah.
Billy Crudup is spoiler alert. He double crosses everybody and
Yeah.
is doing this for the sake of America.
Yeah.
I can't remember what exactly. I watched it a couple weeks ago and took notes, but now I can't remember what his reason was. It's it's convoluted.
Here's another Abrams trademark, which I think is great in this, which is it happens twice when Luther and Ethan Hunt are on a mission and they're talking about their personal lives as they're like setting up for these crazy things.
Right. Yes.
Which I think is really effective.
That stuff is good. That kind of stuff with the personal life doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
It's interesting how they're all telling Hunt like it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Don't do that. Don't get married.
Great line too when they're talking about Carrie Russell and Luther says, "You never slept with your sister." Right.
Right. Let's talk about Tom Cruise running. How much did Tom Cruise run in this movie? He runs a lot. I mean, he puts the other two movies to shame.
All right, what's the count?
The count I had was 3 minutes and 8 seconds.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is quite a bit of running. I mean, it was only 25 seconds in the second movie. And if I review my notes, in the first movie, it was 37 seconds. And now we're above 3 minutes. So I think
a lot of the third act is just him running.
To me, I think there's a transition that Tom Cruise had for his career.
Right.
Where he really sort of kind of adopted a Jackie Chan mentality
Of
being like, I'm a guy I do all my own stunts, and I want to wow people with the stunts I do.
Yeah.
And I think to me this is a big transition movie in Cruise's career. Before this, he worked with a lot of really big name heavy hitter directors, Kubrick and
established
Coppola and all these guys. And then now he's sort of moved into more of like a producer role where he's really more in charge. He's more. I feel like he's kind of
bringing
almost
in
an
younger-
equal with the directors, and I think this was a big transition movie for him because this is right after War of the Worlds, a year after that, which was Spielberg.
Right.
And I think since then,
he's
other than maybe I think Lions for Lambs was after this, with Robert Redford directed. He really has stayed with sort of younger new generation directors, and it seems like he's kind of a mentor even to them.
Well, we always talk about this too, but this is sort of the beginning of a in-franchise trilogy. Now, quadrilogy.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things that are established in this movie that carry out in the next two movies. The lip reading, Simon Pegg's character Benji.
Right. Just the tone, I think.
The tone.
I think the tone is mastered in the next movie.
Yeah.
By Brad Bird and obviously everybody involved with that movie.
Yeah.
But I think they sort of started on that path of that tone.
It's a little lighter. It's a little more effervescent.
Yeah. They're making quips more.
Yeah.
The first movie's much more serious. I mean, there's still some quips here and there, but the tone is a little different.
And the second one is almost melodramatic in terms of how over the top it is with its sentimentality.
Right.
Do we want to talk about the pyramidal structure of this?
Right. So again, we've got a midpoint sequence, which is the Vatican, in the middle of the movie, which is, I think, far and away the best sequence in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable. I think it's one of the best sequences in the series.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing. Like that. When I saw this in theaters, I wanted to stand up and cheer. It was like, this is Mission Impossible. Yeah. This is awesome. I just love everything about it. Even down to like when, at the very beginning of it, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Tom Cruise, they are fighting in Italian by the van, and then Cruise sneaks off, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers flips this little switch in the engine, and it's like this old school looking smoke machine that looks like almost 1960s-ish. It's so great. I beam. I love that stuff. And then Cruise scaling the wall and all that stuff with the security camera and going down. I mean, the whole sequence, I think, is pretty masterful.
And importantly, we finally learn how they make masks.
Yes. That's right. How they do not only the mask and the voice chip, which was established in the second movie.
The voice chip is so cool.
Yeah. Oh, when he makes
Philip Seymour Hoffman
read the poem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That whole sequence is just great. And when he's got to stall the bodyguard because he can't speak until the voice chip is activated.
Yeah. And also there's that really cool 360 shot where Luther is putting the mask on Tom Cruise, and it transitions from Tom Cruise wearing a rubber mask to Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah. And Philip Seymour Hoffman sort of doing a Tom Cruise impression in that moment.
And at the end of the sequence, there's another great camera trick they do where they're on Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then they do a little trickery. They pan off of him to Maggie Q and pan back, and then it's Tom Cruise in the same shot with a mask on, taking the mask off.
Oh, really?
So it's a little lo-fi trick that they did, which I think is really awesome.
A lot of good costume changes in this sequence too that come back for the Kremlin sequence in the next one, which is maybe my favorite costume change in the whole.
That's true. This one kind of establishes the quick costume change. Which, speaking of costumes, just want to throw out that this is probably the biggest name costume designer the series has had. It's Colleen Atwood.
Oh, wow.
Who, has done a lot of Tim Burton movies.
Yeah.
She did Edward Scissorhands, Silence of the Lambs. She's won 4 Oscars.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really ever been before this or since a name that big doing the costumes for the Mission Impossible movie.
I met her last year on the set of Dumbo.
How was that?
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing and has no ego. Just does great work. There's a great exchange in this, one of my favorite exchanges in the whole series, when they pick up Luther who's come up from the sewer, and and he says, "What's up?" and he says, "Nothing. What's up with you?"
Yeah.
It's just a great exchange.
Yeah.
And on the voice thing, what's so funny about going through this crazy length to establish this voice box thing, and then later in the movie when he's escaping IMF, he does a spot-on impression of Lawrence Fishburne without the chip at all.
Yeah.
It's like, if Tom Cruise is so good at this already, maybe he doesn't need it. But, Ethan Hunt is really the Swiss Army knife of spies. He can do it all.
Speaking of which, this movie also establishes his drawing skills.
Oh, yeah.
Which are not as good as they are in the next movie. But, they go to... where are they in that point? He's drawing the skyscrapers.
Oh yeah, I love that.
He's drawing them on the window.
Yeah.
You see, it's like a little sort of a hint. I feel like maybe Brad Bird watched the movie, saw that part, and was like, "Oh, you know what? We should have him really draw." Well, which we'll get into in the next movie, because obviously Ethan Hunt is a master.
I don't want to say that David Fincher stole that for Social Network, but I mean, it was a couple years before. I'm just gonna say.
Let's talk about the screenwriters.
Let's do it.
This is the first time the director was a writer on it.
Oh, okay.
So JJ was a writer along with Orsi and Kurtzman.
Yep.
Right.
Who are also Alias holdovers.
Right.
This, I think, was one of their first big movies.
Yeah.
And they obviously went on to do Transformers and Star Trek, obviously, with JJ.
And, I think the script's good.
It's good.
It's got those great quips and things we talked about. It
Yeah.
establishes a new tone, which also JJ, as a director, is a big hand in that. But, it's just the personal life stuff that just,
You think it bogs it down?
Yeah.
I was really struck by how good that bridge sequence is.
Again, it always reminds me of True Lies, the bridge sequence.
But
it's different. It is different.
It didn't
but,
as much this time.
What's really cool is when they spray the...
goo.
They spray the goo that they crack, and then they get...
I also like
Philip
seeing
Seymour Hoffman
him dealing with, like, saving civilians.
Right.
Which is sort of interesting. We've never really seen that
Yeah.
before. I also love, and it was in the first trailer, and it's still, like, one of my favorite shots in the movie. And supposedly Cruise did it himself. The shot where he's got the gun and the drone comes by and blows up the thing and sends him flying into the car.
Knocks into the car.
Yeah, and the glass pops out. I thought that. I mean, there's some great shots in this movie.
Yeah, it's a
that
cool
shot
sequence.
that goes through the elevator when he's tied up, and it goes from each guy that's watching him down to Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Also, a non-mask disguise. If we're talking about masks.
Oh yeah, when Cruise goes to the airport,
when
he's
he's
got
like
his,
a 70s hippie. What?
But no, but he's got a weird accent too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, when he talks to the person who works at the airport.
Because she asked him his name.
Yeah, and he says something in some kind of thick accent.
Yeah.
Oh, so he can barely understand English.
So is he disavowed technically in this?
So it's another one where the IMF is really inefficient because the bad guy is from the IMF.
Right.
Because Crudup is the bad guy. We should talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman too. Crudup is the sort of the big bad kind of at the end.
Yeah.
But Philip Seymour Hoffman I think is amazing, but he's really only in a few scenes.
Yeah.
I know, and people always talk about how great he is in this movie, and he is great, but I wish there was more with him.
Yeah.
And I wish there was more to him.
He and Abrams
well.
went to Sarah Lawrence together, and that's why.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
They were in college together.
And I to me, the climax is always disappointing in this
Yeah.
one, where it ends up Ethan Hunt's wife has to save the day.
Yeah.
And the bad guys are they're sort of not even. I mean, there's a fight with Philip Seymour Hoffman where he gets hit by a car. And
Yeah.
That's fine.
I actually liked how they set that up in this one. I had forgotten that earlier someone runs out into the alley and there's a big truck that comes by.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's just disappointing. I mean, again, it's just that pyramid structure.
Yeah.
The Vatican sequence is just like,
and even the
phenomenal,
Shanghai
and then
stuff
you get this...
is so good. That car chase after he jumps out of the building.
Right, yeah. That's
it's sort of a neat kind of inverse.
It's like, it's one of those dated car... We got to drive to get a phone signal car chases.
Right. Well, when the movie
I still don't
opens
have a signal.
with a disposable camera, I guess that's like... But I thought it was neat because you expect this whole thing inside the building when he's getting this rabbit's foot, which we can talk about. But you don't ever see anything inside the building. You just see him sort of calamitously jump out of the building.
Right. That's the scene where the Maggie Q and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers are talking. Instead of showing the heist inside, they decided to have them talk about a cat outside.
Yeah, which is kind of fun.
It's funny that just the implied sequence.
I guess they have.
I would rather have them not talk about that stuff.
Yeah, I guess they have a reference to him on a wire when he scales the wall
at the Vatican. Yeah, they do the nod. Every Mission Impossible movie has the nod to him in Langley when he comes down in the room and is hanging. They do that at the Vatican.
Yeah, I thought that was good. Can we talk about that montage after he like drinks the kind of like poison or whatever? After he hands off the rabbit's foot, he drinks this kind of thing, and then he wakes up and tied to the chair, which we see at the beginning.
Yeah,
it's sort of this dreamy kind of hallucinogenic thing that we've never really seen in a Mission movie before or since.
Right,
but it was very striking to me this time.
That sequence is kind of a cheat too. The cold open kind of that always bugged me a little bit, that they kill her, but then she's got a mask on, and it's Philip Seymour Hoffman's assistant. I think this movie's got a little bit of the mask crazies.
Yeah,
not as bad as the second movie, but as we'll talk about when we get to the fourth movie, I think Brad Bird kind of subverts the mask thing in a really awesome way.
Well, I was going to tell you, yesterday I talked to Simon Pegg. He's got a movie opening the week that we record this, and I had to ask him, does Benji finally get a mask? And
because he's been wanting the mask forever.
And he says, I can't tell you.
Oh, that means he does.
Yeah.
I think Simon Pegg finally gets
And I also asked him, when he did the third one, because I knew we were going to be talking about the third one, did he ever have any idea that, he would be this, like, long-standing part of the franchise? And he said no, he did it as a favor to JJ. He thought he was going to, he was shot for 2 days or whatever. And he thought that would be it. And then he called him for the fourth one and said, "What if we made Benji an agent?"
Love that.
And he said, "All right." And he never had any it's not like he got the job and said, "Oh, I'll be doing this for 10 years or whatever." He had no sort of preconceived notions, and he's just thankful to be a part of it still.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that they keep bringing back him and Luther, and
yeah,
I love it if they bring out some more of the characters, which they kind of implied they're going to do in 5, which we'll see.
I liked Maggie Q a lot. Again, that dress that Colleen Atwood puts her in the Vatican is so great.
Yeah.
And all that fun stuff with her, like not wanting to blow up the car, and
yeah, they should bring her back.
She's great.
Yeah.
And obviously on La Femme Nikita, she's kind of proven that she can do that stuff and very well.
We're talking about the rabbit's foot.
Well,
it's a sort of an interesting. They really make a point of the MacGuffin in this movie, and they talk about it a lot. And that's actually kind of a director trademark. Is the mystery box.
Big mystery.
JJ loves the mystery box. Is his whole philosophy, and so the rabbit's foot is the mystery box, which they never answer what it is. And I feel like they make too big of a deal of it.
Yeah,
I think the whole point of a MacGuffin is that you're not supposed to talk about it that much. Right. You're supposed to just breeze by it, but they make such a big deal. But they kind of use it for a character thing.
Yeah, well, Simon Pegg...
Because Ethan Hunt wants to know what it is at the end.
Yes.
And Lawrence Fishburne says, I'll tell you if you stay on. And so it's kind of implied that Ethan Hunt's going to maybe retire at the end of this one. Even though, obviously, there are more movies and he doesn't.
Yeah, well, the other MacGuffin, which I texted you about immediately after I watched it again, was what is in that envelope that Fishburne gives him at the end.
I
have no. He looks at it, and then literally the last shot of the movie, is him walking down the hall. Unless it's like a marriage certificate. I mean, I cannot figure out what it is.
I mean, he's not going to retire, so maybe that was maybe that's his next assignment if he decides to take it.
So they've gone from disposable cameras to a letter in an envelope?
No, yeah, it must have just be, maybe it's his...
So where were you when you saw
his personal belongings,
movie?
which amounts to a piece of paper.
That could be.
He's retiring.
That's it? That's all he had? He doesn't have, like, knickknacks on his desk or anything?
Yeah.
Where were you when you saw this movie? Because we saw the second one together, I think, in Fairfield.
This was 2006, so summer of 06.
So it's been 6 years since the last one.
Yeah, it was a bigger gap.
Yeah, that's crazy. And we'll talk about why that was.
There's also other versions of this movie that we really need to talk about because there are other ones were in development with other directors, and we'll do that in another episode.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to point out is that in this one, Philip Seymour Hoffman they mention is a black market trafficker.
Okay.
Which I wondered if that was a holdover from the David Fincher version.
Right.
Because that one he's supposedly
trafficking / Joe Carnahan / Frank Darabont,
which we'll get into another time, but they're trafficking human body parts supposedly in that version.
Yeah. Can we talk about how long Ethan Hunt is dead at the end of this movie? It feels like he's dead for about 18 minutes.
Oh yeah, he's dead for a long time.
Yeah.
That whole sequence is not my favorite.
No.
It's just, I
like the idea
Ethan
of
Hunt's
it.
wife is doing it. It's just I don't mind it. It's just not Mission Impossible.
I
don't want to see Ethan Hunt's wife save the day in the climax with no other IMF team members around.
Well, I mean,
it's that same thing where
so
I want to see the IMF team do a Mission Impossible mission for the climax.
Right.
And they never really do that.
Right. They kind of set her up as being able to do that too by being a nurse, and then he has to mansplain the whole thing to her anyway. You know what I mean? They do go to all these lengths. Yeah. She's so qualified. And then he has to be like, listen, honey, I'm going to die. I want you to bring me back. You'd think she'd be like, I get it. But,
Do you even know what I do for a living, Ethan?
You and your traffic. I like that. Is this the first one where they said IMF? Like what IMF means?
Oh, he says impossible mission force.
Yeah,
and then she's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's something where she laughs about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of, I think, in keeping with this new tone that this movie establishes and going forward for the series.
Did your feelings about this movie change when you rewatched it for this podcast?
I think I like this movie more every time I see it.
Yeah.
And it's the highlights that, like the lip reading and the Vatican, the little touches here and there, are really but it's there's certain scenes that are just hard to get through. The wedding scene is just always hard to get through.
Yeah, I mean I think that scene stands out too because the pace of this movie is so good and it's so quick and
then it stops just like for that scene.
Yeah,
and it's long.
It's long,
and then they have to consummate the marriage, and for some reason we have to see that in this back room.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they wiped everything down. It's a hospital for crying out loud.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they're in like the store room. It's a cute idea. Like I really like. I think that's cute, but yeah, it doesn't really add a lot.
No.
But yeah, I agree. I think this movie is pretty great, and there are people who think it's the best one. a lot of people.
There are. I think we're going to bring on guests, friends and people who have specific ideas about the series or thoughts and feelings, and we're going to bring them on and have them talk about their favorite and why it's their favorite. And there are a lot of people who think this is the best one. Yeah. Which we'll get into our rankings later.
We will get into our rankings once we've seen, Fallout is coming out soon. But, we appreciate you choosing this mission, and we will see you on the next.
If you choose to
accept it. Who knows?
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.